You've heard about the mighty Roman Empire, with its legions conquering vast territories and building roads that still stand today. You know about Ottoman history, the grand sultans who ruled from Istanbul, blending cultures across 3 continents in a tapestry of power and intrigue. We've all marveled at the ancient Greeks and their philosophers, democracy, and epic battles, or the Persians with their immense Achaemenid realm, innovative administration, and clashes with West. These empires have captured our imaginations for centuries. But I bet you've never heard about the Assyrians. Or if you have, you don't know the full depth of their astonishing history. In this presentation, you will learn everything about them, the forgotten giants who forged an empire of iron that reshaped the ancient world. Born in the cradle of civilization in the fertile lands of Mesopotamia around the city of Ashur, the Assyrians emerged from humble beginnings as traders and farmers. But by the 9th century BC, under kings like Ashurnasirpal II and Tiglath-Pileser III, they transformed into a military juggernaut that dominated the ancient Near East. What set them apart? Iron. While others wielded bronze, the Assyrians mastered ironworking, forging weapons that were sharper, stronger, and more abundant. This empire of iron wasn't just a nickname, it was a testament to their technological edge, allowing them to equip massive armies with chariots, siege engines, and armored infantry that struck terror into their enemies. Their military campaigns were ruthless and efficient. Picture vast armies marching across the landscape, laying siege to fortified cities with battering rams and scaling ladders. The Assyrians pioneered psychological warfare, erecting monuments of their conquests, carvings of impaled foes and flayed skins, to demoralize resistors. From the Mediterranean coast to the Iranian Plateau, they built an empire stretching over 1 million square miles, incorporating diverse peoples through a system of deportation and resettlement. This not only quelled rebellions, but also spread Assyrian culture, administration, and innovations like advanced irrigation and road networks. Yet, the Assyrians were more than mere conquerors. They were builders and scholars. In Nineveh, their grand capital, King Ashurbanipal assembled one of the world's first great libraries, preserving thousands of clay tablets on astronomy, medicine, and literature, including the Epic of Gilgamesh. Their art and architecture, with majestic palaces adorned by winged bulls and intricate reliefs, reflected a society that valued both power and intellect. But empires built on iron can rust. By the 7th century BC, internal strife and external pressures from Babylonians, Medes, and Scythians led to their downfall. In 612 BC, Nineveh fell in flames, marking the end of Assyrian dominance. Still, their legacy endures. They influenced Persian, Greek, and Roman militaries, and their innovations in governance and warfare shaped the ancient world. So, as we reflect on the Assyrians today, let us remember them not just as warriors, but as a people who forged history with iron will. In our modern age of technology and conflict, their story reminds us that true strength lies in innovation, strategy, and the unyielding pursuit of progress. Thank you. You've heard about the Roman Empire, that colossal force which spanned from the misty shores of Britain to the sun-baked sands of Egypt, leaving behind aqueducts, amphitheaters, and a legal system that echoes through modern courts. Their legions, disciplined and armored, marched under eagles, conquering with roads that connected distant provinces and a Pax Romana that promised peace through power. Julius Caesar's crossings of the Rubicon, Augustus's golden age, and the dramatic fall in 476 CE. It's all etched into our collective memory through countless books, films, and ruins that tourists flock to today. Then there's the Ottoman Empire, rising from the Anatolian plains in the 13th century under Osman I, evolving into a transcontinental behemoth that captured Constantinople in 1453, renaming it Istanbul and blending Byzantine grandeur with Islamic splendor. Sultans like Suleiman the Magnificent expanded into Europe, Africa, and Asia, creating a multicultural realm where janissaries enforced order, harems intrigued the West, and architectural marvel like the Hagia Sophia, stood as symbols of fusion. Their decline in the 19th century amid nationalist uprisings and World War I marked the end of caliphates, but their legacy in cuisine, art, and geopolitics persists in the modern Middle East, and Balkans turn to the ancient Greeks, whose states like Athens and Sparta birthed democracy, philosophy, and the Olympic Games. Think of Socrates questioning truths, Plato's ideal republic, Aristotle's encyclopedic knowledge, and the epic stand at Thermopylae against Persian invaders. Their marble temples on the Acropolis, tragedies by Sophocles, and mathematical feats by Pythagoras and Euclid have inspired Western civilization for millennia. Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, recounting Trojan wars and heroic journeys, still captivate readers. The Hellenistic era under Alexander the Great spread Greek culture to India, blending it with Eastern influences in cities like Alexandria. And the Persians. The Achaemenid Empire under Cyrus the Great in the 6th century BC was a model of tolerance and administration, uniting diverse peoples from the Indus to the Aegean with royal roads, satrapies, and the Zoroastrian faith. Darius I's Grand Palace at Persepolis, the Immortal Guards, and marathon battles with Greeks at Marathon and Salamis highlight their might. Xerxes' bridge across the Hellespont and the postal system that inspired neither snow nor rain mottos show their ingenuity. These empires dominate history classes, documentaries, and popular culture. Their stories retold endlessly because of surviving texts, artifacts, and their direct ties to European heritage. But amid these giants, the Assyrians lurk in the shadows, often overlooked or reduced to footnotes. I bet many have never delved into their saga, dismissing them as just another ancient Mesopotamian group. Yet they were the Empire of Iron, a ferocious power that predated and influenced many of these better-known realms. Emerging around 2500 BC in northern Mesopotamia, centered on Ashur, they began as a Semitic people trading in textiles and metals. By the Middle Assyrian period, 14th–11th centuries BC, they asserted independence from Babylonian dominance, but it was the Neo-Assyrian Empire from the 10th to 7th centuries BC that truly shone or terrified. Kings like Tiglath-Pileser III revolutionized warfare with professional standing armies, iron weapons that outmatched bronze, and chariots thundering across battlefields. Their empire swelled to encompass the Levant, Egypt briefly, Anatolia, and Mesopotamia, larger than many successors at its peak. What makes them unknown? Much of their history was buried under sands until 19th century excavations by archaeologists like Austin Henry Layard unearthed Nineveh's palaces and libraries. Unlike Greeks with Plato's dialogues or Romans with Virgil's Aeneid, Assyrian records were on cuneiform tablets, deciphered only recently. Biblical portrayals cast them as villains destroyers of Israel in 722 BC, fostering a negative image. No grand romanticized narratives survived like Alexander's conquests. Instead, their own reliefs depict brutal sieges, impalements, and deportations, which modern sensibilities find shocking. Yet this ruthlessness was strategic. Psychological terror deterred revolts, and mass relocations integrated populations, spreading Aramaic as a lingua franca that influenced later empires. Revealing their history unveils innovators who built the first aqueducts, advanced astronomy, and a bureaucratic system with governors and spies. Ashurbanipal's library preserved Mesopotamian knowledge, including flood myths predating Noah. Their art with Lamashu guardians, winged bulls with human heads blended realism and myth. Militarily, they pioneered siege towers, battering rams, and cavalry tactics that Persians and Greeks adapted. The Empire of Iron wasn't just about conquest. It was a forge of civilization, exporting engineering and administration. While Romans built colosseums for spectacle, Assyrians constructed vast palaces narrating victories in stone. Ottomans inherited multicultural governance from them via Persian intermediaries. Greeks clashed with Assyrian successors, absorbing Eastern knowledge. Persians directly emulated Assyrian imperialism. In essence, the Assyrians set the template for empire building, centralized power, technological superiority, and cultural assimilation. Their obscurity stems from lost voices and biased histories, but digging deeper shows they were the iron backbone supporting the ancient world. Without them, the famous empires might have looked very different. Their story, once uncovered, rivals any in drama and impact, proving history's unknowns often hold the most profound lessons. The Assyrians' origins trace back to the heart of Mesopotamia, a region often called the cradle of civilization, where the Tigris and Euphrates rivers nourished early human settlements. Emerging around 2500 BC in the northern part of this fertile crescent, specifically around the city of Ashur, named after their chief deity, the Assyrians began as a Semitic-speaking people akin to their southern neighbors, the Akkadians and Babylonians. Initially, they were not warriors but traders and agriculturists, leveraging their strategic position along trade routes that connected Anatolia, the Levant, and southern Mesopotamia. Ashur served as a bustling commercial hub, exchanging textiles, timber, and metals, which fostered early prosperity and cultural exchanges. Archaeological evidence from sites like Kal, modern Nimrud, reveals modest beginnings, mud, brick homes, temples dedicated to Ashur, and cuneiform inscriptions detailing daily life, religious rituals, and economic transactions. This era, known as the Old Assyrian period, circa 2025-1363 BC, saw them establishing trading colonies, or kurum, in Anatolia, such as at Kanesh, where merchants formed networks that hinted at future organizational prowess. However, the Assyrians' path to empire was fraught with challenges. They endured periods of subjugation under larger powers, including the Akkadian Empire under Sargon the Great and later the Mitanni Kingdom, which dominated northern Mesopotamia in the 15th, 14th centuries BC. These dominations, rather than breaking them, built resilience. By the Middle Assyrian period 1363–912 BC, under rulers like Ashurnasirpal II, they began asserting independence, pushing back against Babylonian and Hittite influences. This phase marked a shift from commerce to conquest, with military reforms laying groundwork for expansion. Kings centralized power, standardized laws inspired by earlier Hammurabi's code, and invested in infrastructure like canals for irrigation, ensuring food security for growing populations. The true metamorphosis occurred in the Neo-Assyrian Empire, 911–609 BC, propelled by visionary kings who harnessed innovation and ambition. Tiglath-Pileser Roman III, 745–727 BC, often hailed as the architect of Assyrian greatness, revolutionized the military by creating a professional standing army, replacing seasonal levies with full-time soldiers paid through taxation and loot. He introduced provincial governance, appointing loyal governors to administer conquered lands, and pioneered mass deportation policies to prevent rebellions by relocating populations, mixing culture, and diluting loyalties. This administrative genius allowed rapid expansion, subduing Urartu in the north, Israel in the west, and even briefly Egypt. Ashurnasirpal Roman II, 883–859 BCE epitomized this rise, embarking on brutal yet effective campaigns that extended Assyrian borders. His palace at Kal boasted reliefs depicting sieges and triumphs, serving as propaganda. He relocated the capital there, symbolizing a new era of grandeur. Military innovation was key, adopting iron weapons from Hittite techniques around 1200 BCE. Assyrians mass-produced swords, spears, and armor that were cheaper and superior to bronze. Chariots evolved into mobile platforms with archers, while siege warfare advanced with battering rams, towers, and sappers tunneling under walls. These technologies, combined with tactical genius, flanking maneuvers, combined arms, and supply lines, made their armies unstoppable. Sennacherib VII, 105–681 BCE furthered this by fortifying Nineveh as the ultimate capital, complete with aqueducts bringing water from distant mountains, showcasing engineering prowess. Esarhaddon 681–669 BCE conquered Egypt in 671 BCE, stretching the empire to its zenith over 1 million square miles. Ashurbanipal 669–631 BCE, the last great king, not only waged wars but collected knowledge, amassing a library of 30,000 tablets. This evolution from modest society to iron-fisted empire was driven by adaptability, turning trade acumen into logistical mastery, subjugation experiences into innovative governance, and technological adoption into military dominance. Environmental factors played a role. Their hilly terrain bred hardy people, while river access enabled mobility. Socially, a warrior ethos, reinforced by Ashur's cult demanding expansion as divine will fueled ambition. Yet, this rise sowed seeds of overextension, with vast territories straining resources. Nonetheless, the Assyrians' ascent demonstrates how innovation and leadership can transform underdogs into overlords, influencing successors like the Persians who adopted their satrapy system and Romans who emulated their legions. Their story is one of relentless progression, from riverbank traders to architects of ancient superpower status. The Assyrians' technological superiority stemmed primarily from their pioneering mastery of ironworking, a breakthrough that catapulted them ahead of contemporaries still reliant on bronze. This shift occurred during the transition from the Bronze Age to the Iron Age around 1200 BCE, following the collapse of major powers like the Hittites, who had guarded iron secrets closely. The Assyrians, quick to adopt and refine Hittite techniques, democratized iron production by developing efficient smelting methods using charcoal-fueled bloomeries. Unlike bronze, which required scarce tin and copper alloys, often imported from distant regions like Cyprus or Afghanistan, iron ore was abundant in northern Mesopotamia and Anatolia. This accessibility allowed mass production, reducing costs and enabling the outfitting of larger armies. Iron tools and weapons were not only cheaper but superior. Harder, more durable, and capable of holding sharper edges. Bronze blades dulled quickly in battle, while iron ones maintained lethality longer, giving Assyrian soldiers a tangible edge in prolonged engagements. In weaponry, this superiority manifested vividly. Assyrian infantrymen wielded iron-tipped spears and arrows that penetrated enemy armor more effectively than bronze counterparts. Swords evolved from short, stabbing daggers to longer, slashing designs like the sickle, sword optimized for close combat. Archers, a cornerstone of Assyrian tactics, benefited from iron arrowheads that could be produced in vast quantities. Excavations at Nineveh reveal stockpiles numbering in the thousands. Armor advanced too. Scale mail made from iron plates offered better protection than leather or bronze equivalents, allowing troops to withstand barrages while advancing. Helmets with iron reinforcements and shields rimmed in iron became standard, transforming the Assyrian army into a heavily armored force that overwhelmed lighter-equipped foes. Chariots, the shock troops of ancient warfare, saw dramatic enhancements through iron. Earlier bronze chariots were heavy and prone to breakage under stress, but Assyrian models incorporated iron axles, hubs, and fittings, making them lighter, faster, and more maneuverable. Drawn by teams of horses often bred selectively for strength, these chariots featured platforms for archers or spearmen with irons, spoked wheels that resisted warping on rough terrain. Kings like Tiglath-Pileser III deployed chariot divisions in coordinated charges, flanking infantry lines and sowing chaos. Reliefs from Ashurnasirpal II's palace depict these vehicles thundering across battlefields, their iron components gleaming as symbols of invincibility. Siege equipment represented the pinnacle of Assyrian engineering ingenuity, amplified by iron. Battering rams, sheathed in iron heads and suspended from wooden frames on wheels, could breach mud, brick walls that had previously withstood assaults. Mobile siege towers, reinforced with iron braces, allowed archers to rain fire from above, while sappers protected by iron tools tunneled underneath fortifications. Scaling ladders with iron hooks and grapples facilitated rapid ascents. These innovations enabled the capture of heavily defended cities like Samaria in 722 BCE or Thebes in Egypt during Ashurbanipal's campaigns. Psychological impact was amplified. Enemies' new Assyrian sieges were relentless, often leading to preemptive surrenders. Beyond the battlefield, iron's versatility permeated Assyrian society, supporting their military machine. Iron plows improved agriculture, yielding surpluses to feed standing armies. Tools for quarrying and construction accelerated palace and temple building, while iron sickles boosted harvests. This technological ecosystem created a feedback loop. Conquests brought tribute and slaves, funding further innovations. Compared to rivals like the Egyptians or Babylonians, stuck in bronze traditions, the Assyrians' iron edge ensured dominance from the 9th to 7th centuries BCE. Their adoption of composite bows, laminated for greater range, and early cavalry with iron stirrup precursors further compounded advantages. Ultimately, this superiority wasn't just material. It embodied strategic foresight, turning a regional power into an empire that intimidated the ancient world through sheer technological might. Assyrians were renowned for their military tactics, which combined brute force, innovative strategies, and psychological intimidation to fuel an unprecedented expansion across the ancient Near East. Their campaigns were characterized by ruthless efficiency, often beginning with meticulous planning and reconnaissance. Scouts and spies, part of a sophisticated intelligence network, gathered information on enemy weaknesses, terrain, and defenses, allowing kings like Sennacherib to launch surprise attacks or exploit divisions. The army itself was a professional force, unlike the conscript militias of rivals. Soldiers were trained year-round, divided into specialized units: infantry, archers, charioteers, and later cavalry, creating a combined arms approach that overwhelmed opponents. In battles, they employed flanking maneuvers where chariots charged the sides while foot soldiers held the center, and archers provided covering fire from composite bows with ranges up to 250 meters. This coordination turned engagements into routs, as seen in Tiglath-Pileser III's defeat of Urartu in 743 BCE, where his forces decimated a larger army through superior tactics. Psychological warfare was a hallmark of Assyrian strategy, designed to break enemy morale before blades even clashed. They erected stelae and reliefs depicting graphic atrocities, impalements, flayings, and beheadings to serve as warnings. Ashurnasirpal II's inscriptions boast of piling enemy corpses into pyramids or forcing survivors to witness the mutilation of leaders, instilling terror that prompted many cities to surrender. Without siege, this calculated frightfulness, as historians term it, minimized casualties and resources, allowing sustained campaigns. During sieges, they excelled with engineering feats. Battering rams smashed gates, while earth ramps and siege towers enabled troops to scale walls under arrow barrages. The fall of Lachish in 701 BCE, immortalized in Sennacherib's palace reliefs, showcases this. Ramps buried defenses, and fire arrows ignited structures, leading to total subjugation. Expansion was not mere conquest but systematic empire building. From their core in northern Mesopotamia, they radiated outward, reaching the Mediterranean by the 9th century BC under Ashurnasirpal II, who campaigned annually to secure tribute. Tiglath-Pileser III formalized this into a provincial system, dividing territories into governates with Assyrian overseers collecting taxes in goods, labor, and soldiers. This administrative efficiency funded further wars and integrated economies. Deportation policies were ingenious. After victories, entire populations were relocated, hundreds of thousands, like the 290 Israelites after Samaria's fall in 722 BCE, to shatter local identity and prevent revolts, deportees were resettled in underpopulated areas, bringing skills that boosted Assyrian agriculture and crafts, while loyal Assyrians colonized vacated lands. This demographic engineering created a multicultural empire, with Aramaic emerging as a common language. Infrastructure development underpinned this vast domain, stretching over 1 million square miles at its peak under Esarhaddon and Ashurbanipal. Royal roads, inspired by earlier models but expanded, connected provinces with relay stations for swift communication. Couriers could travel 150 miles daily, enabling rapid troop movements. Irrigation canals, like Sennacherib's Jerwan aqueduct spanning 50 miles with stone arches, transformed arid lands into fertile fields, supporting a population boom and army logistics. Fortified cities and border garrisons deterred invasions, while trade routes secured resources like timber from Lebanon or horses from Media. These elements turned conquests into enduring control, from Anatolia to Egypt, where Ashurbanipal's 667 BC sack of Thebes demonstrated the empire's reach. Yet, this ruthlessness bred resentment, fueling coalitions that eventually toppled them. Nonetheless, their tactics blending terror, innovation, and administration set precedents for future empires, influencing Persian satrapies and Roman legions in managing vast, diverse realms. Beyond their fearsome reputation as warriors, the Assyrians demonstrated remarkable cultural achievements that blended intellectual pursuit with artistic expression, leaving an indelible mark on human civilization. At the heart of this was scholarship, epitomized by King Ashurbanipal's library in Nineveh, established in the 7th century BCE. This vast collection, unearthed in the 19th century by archaeologists, contained over 30,000 clay tablets inscribed in cuneiform, covering a spectrum of knowledge from astronomy and mathematics, medicine, law, and mythology. Ashurbanipal, a literate king who boasted of his erudition, commissioned scribes to copy texts from across the empire, preserving Babylonian epics like the Epic of Gilgamesh, which narrates tales of heroism, mortality, and the flood, predating biblical stories and influencing later narratives. These tablets included omen texts for divination, medical recipes using herbs and surgeries, and astronomical observations tracking planetary movements, laying foundations for later Greek science. The library wasn't mere hoarding. It served as a royal archive for governance, with bilingual dictionaries in Akkadian and Sumerian aiding administration in a multilingual empire. Artistically, Assyrian creativity shone through bas reliefs and sculptures that adorned palaces and temples, narrating royal exploits with vivid realism. In palaces like those at Nimrud and Khorsabad, walls featured intricate carvings of battles, hunts, and rituals, depicting kings as lions, laying heroes symbolizing divine favor. These reliefs employed perspective techniques with overlapping figures and detailed musculature, showcasing advanced craftsmanship in gypsum and alabaster. Iconic lama, colossal winged bulls with human heads and beards guarded entrances, blending Mesopotamian mythology with protective symbolism, their 5 legs creating an illusion of motion from different angles, jewelry, cylinder seals, and ivory carvings from Phoenician tributes reflected luxury, with motifs of sacred trees and griffins influencing Persian and Greek art. Literature flourished too, with royal annals like Sennacherib's prism detailing campaigns poetically, while hymns to Ashur exalted the god as empire's patron. Architecture mirrored this grandeur, with ziggurats and massive palaces symbolizing power. Nineveh's walls, 12 kilometers long and fortified with moats, enclosed gardens irrigated by aqueducts. Sennacherib's system from Mount Musri spanned 55 kilometers, an engineering marvel predating Roman feats. Temples in Ashur, with stepped towers and glazed bricks, honored deities, while urban planning included broad streets and public spaces. These structures not only awed subjects, but facilitated cultural diffusion through deportations, spreading Assyrian styles to resettled peoples. The empire's decline began in the late 7th century BCE, triggered by overextension and internal weaknesses. Ashurbanipal's death around 631 BCE sparked succession crises, weakening central authority. Rebellions erupted in Babylon under Nabopolassar, while Medes under Cyaxares and Scythian nomads exploited borders. A coalition sacked Ashur in 614 BCE and Nineveh in 612 BCE, burning the city in a cataclysm described in Babylonian chronicles as divine retribution. The last Assyrian holdouts fell by 609 BCE, erasing their political entity. Yet their legacy profoundly shaped successors. Persians under Cyrus adopted Assyrian satrapies, roads, and bureaucracy, while Aramaic, promoted through deportations, became the Near East's lingua franca, influencing Hebrew and Arabic scripts. Greek historians like Herodotus drew on Assyrian tales and military tactics, standing armies. Sieges inspired Alexander's conquests. Romans emulated engineering and imperialism. In art, Assyrian motifs appeared in Achaemenid Persepolis reliefs. Modern discoveries, from British Museum artifacts to deciphered texts, reveal their contributions to knowledge preservation, without which much Mesopotamian heritage would be lost. Their fall underscores empire's fragility, but their innovations in culture, governance, and technology endure, reminding us of civilization's interconnected threads. Thank you all for your attentive ears and open minds. Your presence here today honors the forgotten stories of history like that of the Assyrians.